Okay, let's unpack this. You ever stop to think about how some names sound, well, kind of the opposite of what they actually are?
Uh-huh.
George Carlin, the comedian, he was brilliant at noticing this stuff.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
He pointed out the fire department. I mean, it sounds like they start fires, right, and not put them out.
Ha. Yeah, that's a classic Carlin bit. It does make you think.
And he had others too, like the bomb squad. Doesn't exactly make you feel relaxed.
Not exactly calming terminology,
Or wrinkle cream. Makes you wonder if it gives you wrinkles. And pain pills. Now, the name just states the problem, doesn't it?
It really does. And what's fascinating there is that Carlin, maybe without even meaning to, hit on a really fundamental question in language.
Which is?
How does meaning actually work, That's pretty much the core of what we're diving into today.
Ah, okay. So we're exploring word meaning, like what words are supposed to mean versus what we might personally think they mean.
Exactly that. We're looking at the conventional meaning compared to our own individual sort of associations.
Gotcha. And to help us figure this out, we've got some material, some insights from a text on semantics, right?
That's right. And this isn't just about opinions or feelings. It's about how linguists try to systematically analyze meaning, the meaning that's kind of baked into the words themselves.
Okay, so the mission for this deep dive then is to really get into the nuts and bolts of meaning.
Yeah, precisely. To go beyond just looking things up in a dictionary.
We want to understand the different layers, the connections between words.
The whole web of relationships within language itself.
All right. So the source material starts off with a key difference. Conceptual versus associative meaning.
Mm-hmm.
As I understand it, conceptual meaning is, well, it's the basic literal definition, the dictionary one.
Spot on. Take a word like needle.
Okay, needle.
Conceptually, it's that thin, sharp steel instrument. Simple.
Right. Pretty straightforward. Most people would agree on that.
Exactly. That's the core, the shared understanding. Now, associative meaning.
Yeah.
That's where it gets personal.
Ah, so this is the feelings, the connections we make.
Precisely. The connotations, the sort of extra baggage for that same needle.
Yeah.
While one person might immediately think pain.
Ouch, yeah. Or maybe sewing, knitting.
Or someone afraid of injections might have a whole different, much stronger negative association.
Right, right. All those extra layers of feeling and our own experiences.
Mm-hmm. And the text makes a really important point here.
Which is?
While that associative meaning is incredibly useful for, say, poets or advertisers.
People trying to evoke emotion.
Exactly. Linguistic semantics, the study of meaning itself, it really focuses on that core conceptual meaning.
Okay, so we need to keep that distinction clear. Like, the text used low calorie.
Yeah, good example. Conceptually, low calorie just means a small amount of heat energy.
Okay. Joules, kilojoules, whatever.
But what do people associate with low calorie?
Usually healthy, I guess.
Right. Even though, a low-calorie soda isn't exactly health food, the association is healthy, but the conceptual meaning isn't.
Okay, got it. Focus on the core, agreed upon meaning. So how do linguists break that down? The text mentions semantic features.
Right. Semantic features, that seems a bit technical, maybe.
A little, yeah. Is it like a checklist? Breaking down meaning into plus or minus categories.
That's actually a great way to think about it. You identify these basic components, like for nouns, common features are things like, is it animate or inanimate?
Alive or not alive, okay.
Is it human or non-human? Male or female? Adult or not adult? So you'd have features like plus animate, animate, plus human, plus female, adult.
Interesting. And how does this help? Does it explain why some sentences just sound weird?
Exactly. The text gives that classic example. The hamburger ate the boy.
Yeah. Grammatically, it seems fine. Subject, verb, object.
Structurally, yes. But it sounds odd, right? Why?
Because hamburgers don't eat people.
Well, yes. But why don't they? In terms of semantic features, the verb ate requires a subject that has the feature plus animate.
Something capable of eating.
Boy is plus animate, but hamburger, that's definitely animate.
Ah, so the features don't match up with what the verb needs.
Precisely. The sentence breaks a semantic rule, even if the grammar is okay. It helps us see these hidden constraints in language.
I see. So analyzing these features shows the underlying logic. The text had a table, I think, for words like table, horse, boy.
Yes, exactly. It showed how you can distinguish them using these features. So table is animate, horse is plus animate but human.
And boy would be plus animate, plus human, plus male, adult.
You got it. And girl would be plus animate, plus human, male, adult, or maybe plus female, depending on the system.
And this lets us predict oddness, like the table is reading the newspaper.
Right. That sentence needs something plus human in the blank.
So putting table or horse or even our hamburger in there sounds weird because they lack the plus human feature.
Exactly. It works quite well for many basic nouns.
But the text did mention limitations, right?
Yeah.
It's not perfect for everything.
True. It's harder to apply neatly to more abstract words, like what are the features for advice or threat or warning? It gets tricky.
Yeah, I could see that. Not everything fits into neat plus-minus boxes.
Which kind of highlights that thinking of words just as containers for features isn't the whole story.
Okay, so what's another way to look at meaning?
Well, we can shift focus from the word itself to the role it plays in the sentence, in the event being described.
Ah, like actors in a play. What part are they playing?
That's a great analogy. This is where semantic roles come in, sometimes called thematic roles.
Okay. Semantic roles. So instead of asking, what is this word, we ask, what is this word doing here?
Exactly. And the first role mentioned is often the agent.
The agent, the one doing the action, like the boy kicked the ball.
Precisely. The agent is the entity performing the action, the initiator.
Does it have to be human?
Nope. The text points out it can be non-human too. The wind blew the ball away. The car hit the fence. The dog chased the cat. Wind, car, dog, they're all agents in those sentences.
Got it. So the doer. Then there's the theme.
The theme.
That's the entity being affected or involved. Like the ball and the boy kicked the ball. It got kicked.
Yes, it's the entity directly involved in or affected by the action. But it can also be something that's just being described.
Oh, like
in the ball was red, the ball isn't being acted upon, but it's the entity being described, so it's still the theme.
Okay, so affected by the action or are just being talked about. Can a person be a theme?
Sure. The dog chased the boy. Here, the boy is the theme.
Right. And the text mentions something about one thing having multiple roles.
Yeah, that can happen. The example was, the boy cut himself.
So the boy is the agent doing the cutting.
And also the theme, the one being cut.
Okay, that makes sense. Agent and theme. What else? Instrument.
Instrument. That's pretty much what it sounds like.
The tool used. Like he cut the rope with an old razor. The razor is the instrument.
Exactly. Or she drew the picture with a crayon. Crayon is the instrument.
Simple enough.
Yeah.
What about experiencer?
Ah, the experiencer. This is for when an entity isn't really doing an action like an agent, but is having a feeling, a perception, or experiencing a state.
Okay, so like the boy feels sad. He's not doing sadness, he's experiencing it.
Perfect example. Or did you hear that noise? You aren't doing the hearing in an active agent way, you're experiencing the perception of sound.
Okay, I think I get that distinction. Feeling, perceiving, sensing. Then there were location ones.
Right. Location, source, and goal.
Location is just where something is. On the wall, in Mary saw a fly on the wall.
Yep, straightforward location. Source is where something moves from.
Like from Chicago.
And goal is where it moves to.
Like to New Orleans.
Right.
So we drove from Chicago source to New Orleans goal.
You've got it. And the source probably used an example, maybe with Mary seeing the fly, to show how these roles work together across sentences to describe a whole situation.
Right. You can piece together the whole event by identifying the roles. Who did what to whom, with what, where, from where to where.
Exactly. It gives us a framework for analyzing the meaning of the whole event, not just individual words.
Fascinating stuff. So we've looked inside words features and at their jobs in sentences, roles. What's next?
Next up is how words relate to each other. This is getting into lexical relations.
Lexical relations, meaning through relationships between words.
Instead of defining a word in isolation, we look at how its meaning connects to others. The first big one is synonymy.
Synonyms. Words that mean roughly the same thing, like conceal and hide or big and large.
Pretty much words with closely related meanings, but the text probably cautioned that sameness isn't always total, right?
Yeah, it did. Like answer and reply. They're close, but you wouldn't say reply the door.
Good point. Context matters. And sometimes it's about formality, like purchased versus bought.
Purchased sounds more formal, yeah. So synonyms are close, but not always identical twins.
Exactly. Subtle but important differences.
Okay, then the opposite of synonymy is antonymy.
Antonymy, yes. Words with opposite meanings.
Like alive, dead, big, small, fast, slow.
Right. But it gets a bit more nuanced. The text likely broke antonyms down further.
It did. There were gradable antonyms.
Gradable ones, yes. These are opposites on a scale, like big and small.
You can be bigger or smaller or very big, and saying something isn't big doesn't automatically mean it's small, right?
Exactly. It could be medium. They allow for comparison in degrees. Old, new, hot, cold, tall, short. Those are gradable.
Okay. Then there were non-gradable ones. Complementary pairs.
Non-gradable or complementary. These are more like direct, either opposites.
Like alive, dead, or male, female, pass, fail.
Right. Usually you can't use comparative like deader or more female. And the negative of one generally implies the other. If you're not dead, you're alive.
Makes sense. No middle ground, usually. And there was a third type, reversive.
Reversives. Yeah, these are interesting. They aren't just opposites. They imply doing the reverse action.
Like dress and undress. Undressing reverses the action of dressing.
Exactly. Or enter, exit, pack, unpack, tie, untie. One undoes the other.
Cool. So synonyms, 3 kinds of antonyms. What else? Hyponymy. That sounds complex.
Hyponymy. It's actually quite intuitive once you get the idea. It's the is a kind of relationship.
Oh, like a dog is a kind of animal, or a rose is a kind of flower.
Precisely. Dog is a hyponym of animal. Rose is a hyponym of flower. It describes that hierarchical relationship.
And the broader category, like animal or flower, that's the superordinate.
Superordinate term, yes.
Yeah.
And words that share the same superordinate like dog, cat, and horse under animal, they're called co-hyponyms.
Co-hyponyms.
Yeah.
Okay. Like siblings under a parent category.
You can think of it like that. Like a family tree for words. The text might have even shown a diagram.
Yeah, I think it did.
Yeah.
And it's not just for things, right? It mentioned verbs, too.
Absolutely. Actions can have hyponyms. Punch, shoot, stab. They are all hyponyms of the more general verb injure. They are specific kinds of injuring.
Right. Now, related to hyponymy, there's this idea of prototypes.
Ah, yes. Prototypes. This is more about psychology meets linguistics.
What's the core idea?
The prototype is the sort of best example, the most characteristic instance of a category that comes to your mind first.
So if I say bird, the first thing you probably picture isn't a penguin or an ostrich.
Probably not. For many people in certain cultures, the prototype bird is something more like a robin or a sparrow.
Even though penguins and ostriches are technically birds too.
Right. Technically, all the co-hyponyms are equal members of the category. But mentally, we tend to rely on these prototypes as the benchmark. Think furniture.
Chair. Table.
Exactly. Probably not stool or bookcase first, even though they are also furniture. Chair is often the prototype.
Interesting. So our mental categories aren't always perfectly neat and balanced.
Not at all. And prototypes can influence how quickly we categorize things or even how we reason about them. Though, as the text might have noted, prototypes can differ between people or cultures.
Yeah, it mentioned potential disagreements, like, is an avocado a shoot or a vegetable?
Ver.
Or a tomato? Depends on your prototype, maybe.
Exactly.
Okay, this is making sense. Now, the next few seem related and are often sources of confusion and humor. Homophones, homonyms, polysemy.
Right. These 3 often get mixed up, but the distinctions are useful. Let's start with homophones.
Homophones. Same sound, different spelling, different meaning.
You got it. Like bear, bear, meat, meat, flower, flower, and the classic two.
Definitely trip people up in writing.
For sure. Now, homonyms.
Homonyms. These have the same spelling and sound, but totally unrelated meanings.
Exactly. One word form, multiple meanings, but crucially, those meanings have separate origins. They just happen to converge.
Like bank, the river bank versus the financial bank?
Perfect example. Or bat, the animal versus the baseball bat. Or race, the contest of speed versus the ethnic group. Unrelated meanings, separate dictionary entries.
Okay, unrelated origins is key there. Which brings us to polysemy.
Polysemy. This is where you have one word form, same spelling, same sound, but multiple meanings that are related.
So there's a connection between the meanings this time.
Yes. The meanings have usually developed from one original sense. Think of the word head.
Okay, head, top of your body.
Right. But also the foam on top of a beer.
Because it's at the top. Yeah.
Or the person in charge of a company. The head of the department.
Also at the top, metaphorically.
Okay, I see the link.
Or foot, part of your body, bottom of the bed, base of a mountain. There's a shared idea of base or lower part. Or run. A person can run, water can run, colors can run. A core idea of movement or flow connects them.
So dictionaries would handle these differently. Homonyms get separate entries. Polysemy gets one entry with different numbered senses.
Generally, yes. That's a common way to distinguish them. Though sometimes the line can be blurry. A word like date could be seen as a homonym. fruit versus social meeting, but the meeting sense could also be polysemous, the event versus the person.
Language is messy.
It certainly keeps things interesting. And these last three homophones, homonyms, polysemy, they are fuel for wordplay, aren't they?
Absolutely. Jokes, puns, riddles often hinge on playing with these ambiguities.
The text mentioned that Mary had a little lamb joke.
Right, where lamb could be the animal or, a small portion of meat. It depends on the punchline.
Or riddles like, what kind of trees do dogs like? Playing on bark.
Yep. Tree bark versus dog bark, that's a homonym.
And the classic kids joke, why is 6 afraid of 7?
Because 7, 8, 9. Playing on the homophones 8 and 8.
Brilliant. Okay, moving on from wordplay fuel. Metonymy. This sounds different again.
It is. Metonymy isn't about similar meanings like polysemy. It's about association, a close connection in everyday experience.
So things that are commonly linked in the real world or in our minds.
Exactly. We use one of these closely linked things to stand for the other.
Okay, examples. Yeah. The text mentioned using the container for the contents.
Right, like saying he drank the whole bottle. You mean he drank the water or juice inside the bottle.
Or using the whole for a part. Like, I need some wheels.
Meaning you need a car.
Yes.
Or using a symbol for the thing represented.
Like the crown represents the monarchy. Or the White House announced, meaning the president or the administration.
Precisely. We use these all the time. Downing Street protested, meaning the UK government. Can you give me a hand? Meaning help.
Fill up the car, meaning fill the gas tank. Answer the door, meaning see who is there. Boiling a kettle, meaning boiling the water inside.
All great examples of mononymy. It makes language efficient. Sometimes it requires a bit more context, though.
Right.
Like maybe, get your butt over here. You mean the whole person, obviously. Or in an orchestra, the strings are too quiet, meaning the stringed instruments or players. Or I prefer cable, meaning cable television service.
Right. Those rely a bit more on shared understanding or the specific situation.
Mm-hmm. The connection is based on contiguity or association, not similarity.
Okay. Last concept. Collocation.
Collocation. This one's about words that just like to hang out together. Words that frequently occur alongside each other.
Like peanut butter and jelly. Salt and pepper.
Those are classic pairs, yes. But it's broader, too. Think strong coffee, not usually powerful coffee. Or make an effort, not do an effort.
Ah, so it's about typical word partnerships. Hammer goes with nail, table with chair, butter with bread.
Exactly. They collocate. And studying these patterns, often using large text databases called corpora, and that's corpus linguistics.
Looking at which words actually appear together frequently in real language use?
Yes, and it can tell you subtle things about meaning. The text might have mentioned an example studying the phrase true feelings.
It did. How looking at the words often used around true feelings revealed something.
Yeah, it revealed that people often talk about hiding true feelings or being unable to express true feelings or finally revealing them. The collocation suggests a meaning component of difficulty or concealment, which isn't obvious just from the words true and feelings themselves.
Wow. So the company a word keeps actually shapes its meaning in context.
Absolutely. Context, including the words typically found nearby, is hugely important for understanding.
Okay, that was a lot, but super interesting. Let's try to quickly recap the main points of this deep dive into meaning.
That sounds good.
We started with that key difference. Conceptual meaning, the core definition, versus associative meaning, the personal stuff.
Right. Then semantic features those, plus categories like animate human helping explain why some sentences sound odd.
Then semantic roles, agent, theme, instrument experiencer, location source, goal, describing what words do in the sentence's event.
Mm-hmm. And then the big category of lexical relations, how words connect to each other.
Right. We had synonymy, similar meaning, antonymy, opposites, gradable, non-gradable, reversive.
Hyponymy, this is a kind of relationship, and the related idea of prototypes, the best example.
Then the tricky trio. Homophones, sound same. Homonyms, look, sound same. Unrelated meaning. And polysemy, look, sound same. Related meanings.
Don't forget metonymy, meaning via close association, a container for contents.
Ah, yes, metonymy. And finally, collocation words that just naturally occur together.
That covers the main ground, I think. And hopefully understanding these ideas gives you a richer way to think about language.
Definitely. It's not just about definitions anymore. It's about layers, roles, relationships.
Exactly. It helps you appreciate the complexity and, honestly, the elegance of how we manage to communicate meaning. You can be more precise, maybe understand misunderstandings better.
So a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. Considering all these ways meaning gets packed and unpacked, Conceptual, associative, roles, relations, context.
Hmm.
How might really thinking about semantics change how you hear things or how you choose your words? Is there a simple word maybe or a common phrase that suddenly seems much more complex, much richer now that you've thought about all these layers?
That's a great question to ponder. Does knowing about polysemy or metonymy make you see everyday expressions differently?
Something to think about next time you hear someone talk about the head of a company or answering the door.